Councilmember Day Alcar, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, council is grateful to have Apostle Alfred Tago of Oasis of Love Community Church to pray with us. Pastor, welcome to council.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, that this is the day you have made, and we choose to rejoice and be glad in it. It is you who said to us in Micah 6, verse 8, that you have told us, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of us, but to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. So humbly, God, we come on behalf of Father God of these wonderful leaders and the wonderful work they have to set policy, to lead, and to guide. We ask the Father you will grant them wisdom, understanding, even of the fear of the Lord, to do that which is just as they pursue loving our neighbor as we love ourselves. So, Father God, provide your presence here today. Let your peace that surpasses all understanding guide and guard our hearts, their hearts, as they collectively do what is right for your people. We thank you, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, de Alcauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Ross, Vice President Harden. Any person who takes any action to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can I get a motion to the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, de Alcauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Ross, Vice President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any other records to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go around the dais for announcements and resolutions from my colleagues, starting with Councilmember Bankston. Thank you, Councilmember. Barosa de Padilla.
Thank you, Council President. So I think the fourth wave of winter has been among us. Not sure when it's going to end, but I just wanted to first acknowledge all of our snow warriors, because this has been a very, very long, very, very busy winter, and I just want to thank them for all of the work they've been doing. I just wanted to kick it over to our director. Director, is there any updates you want to give us? Any ins you might have to a weather person anywhere that could maybe make spring come faster? So the floor is yours.
Good evening, President Harden, Chair Barosa de Padilla, members of council. We are in the midst of storm number 14 this year. So that's quite a number for us to have battled this summer, or this winter. I'm dreaming of summer here.
So we're all of us.
I think we're going to be feeling summer towards the end of the week, and I'm looking forward to it. This morning's snow, it hit at a real challenging time during the commute. Came down fast and furious. I think Mother Nature worked with us this afternoon, and we're in pretty good shape for this evening's commute. That's all I have.
Thank you. And so I just want to remind everyone that after the 14th wave, 14th snowstorm of the season, it is pothole season. So as you see those potholes in your streets, I feel like every time I say this, I like curse us with the next snowfall, but please call 311. We will be out, I believe, Director, it's 48 to 72 hours after we try to get in within that time frame when we get the reports on 311. So please make sure that you are calling in if at any time you are seeing things, because I know that 311 for folks, it looks like things are closed out. So you're wondering, like, I put this in, things haven't been addressed. Please feel free to reach out to any of our council offices. We're happy to look at things on the back end for you, but make sure that you get those all those reports in. And then on the last note, I do have a very personal little shout out. Today, my daughter, Eva Isabel, is turning 18.
Wow.
So I want to send her, thanks guys. I want to send her I'm not there with her, we had a celebration this weekend, but I want to send her a very, very happy birthday. And to all the parents who have a graduating senior, I'm here in solidarity for you. We're not okay, so check on your strong friends. That's all for me this evening, thanks.
Happy birthday. Councilmember Diak-Auer.
Just one quick one for me. As the City of Columbus prepares for St. Patrick's Day, the lesser-known branch of the Celtic family, of the Cornish, we're celebrating our holiday on Thursday. So go Perin Loan to my fellow Cornish cousin Jacks and cousin Jennies.
Pres Pro Tem. Councilmember Green.
Yes, thank you so much, Council President. Tonight, we have one resolution on the agenda. It is to recognize, oh, sorry, my bad. Okay, to recognize March 2026 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. So at this time, as I introduce this resolution, I'd like to invite our friends Christine Brown and Dot Yeager to the podium. So March is nationally recognized as Disability Awareness Month and unites communities across our country to empower people with developmental disabilities, their families and allies to build welcoming and supportive communities. And there's no one that does it better in our community than these two advocates that are here with us today. They understand the way in which it is absolutely imperative to ensure that people who are living in our community with developmental disabilities can live self-directed lives here in Columbus and across the state of Ohio. And recognize that living independently is not a privilege, but it's a fundamental right. And individuals with developmental disabilities deserve equitable opportunities to make choices about their lives, pursue their dreams, and contribute their unique talent to our city. I was just talking with them in advance of this meeting, and we recognize this year every year, but I don't think I've ever shared here. I grew up in a household where both of my parents worked in special education, and so I got to see firsthand how impactful this work is and how important this advocacy work is that the two of you do every year. It was a real honor and privilege, I know, and thanks to the leadership of Councilmember White to stand up here at Columbus City Council, the commission that is exploring how to bring more equitable policy work in the space of developmental disabilities, and that would not have happened without your advocacy and leadership. And so at this point in time, I would love to turn the floor over to you just to talk a little bit about that work and what we can be doing better to support people living in our community, our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones with developmental disabilities.
Thank you, Councilmember Green and everyone. Dot Yeager and I are here to say thanks for recognizing the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. We know that it is very important to recognize our folks who are working hard, being contributing members of society, working in the community, trying to showing skill out there. We are thankful that we also have numbers of doctors that are working with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, because that's one thing that still lacks. But the thing is that we are fortunate, and thank you for recognizing this, because everyone can achieve at their own success. Dot?
Thank you, Christine. I'm the superintendent for the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities, so here's in support of those we serve. I know one of the things that council is working on is housing, and as housing projects are coming about, I think we would encourage accessibility at the forefront of those decisions. Just wanted to highlight a couple of opportunities for the community this March 2026 for DD Awareness Month. So this coming Saturday from 10 until 1 at the Blacklick Woods Metro Parks Golf Course, there will be a disability resource fair. Would also like to invite folks to Franklin County DD Day at the Columbus Museum of Art, which will be next Thursday, March 12th, from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And thank you all for your support here.
And like Dot said, we have a task force in Ohio that's working in housing, because I know you all finally hired an ADA coordinator, but it's still in the works that when housing is getting built, they're not meeting the 10% rule. So we're doing research in how we can make sure that people can be getting to be in the biggest integrated setting and not have to wait till they win the lottery to get assistance.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, we could not agree more with all of those sentiments. You know, I think we've come a really long way, and we have a long way to go. And you know, again, I just want to thank you for keeping us accountable and keeping this at the front of all of our minds. And we will continue to walk lockstep with you to figure out how we can continue to go further. Before I move for adoption, any of my colleagues have comments or questions? Seeing none, I move to adopt Resolution 0051X-2026 to recognize March 2026 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, White, President Harden.
Adopted. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Council President. I just have one announcement. This evening, tomorrow, at my office, we'll launch community working hours in celebration of Women's History Month. We will be doing work out in the community at Femergy, which is a women-owned and minority-owned business that supports women and young girls by reducing critical barriers and creating safe spaces and programming. Community working hours is a chance for you to come, hang out with me, do some work, ask a couple questions, learn about your local government. We are going to do this multiple times throughout the course of the remainder of this year, but if you have some time to come and visit with us tomorrow, we will be at Femergy from 1 to 3 p.m. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember White.
Thank you, Council President. In alignment with Council's stance to stand with and protect our immigrant neighbors, my office worked to draft a letter urging Congress to work bipartisanly to reinstate the temporary protected status for all vulnerable immigrant populations that have had this designation arbitrarily revoked by the current federal administration. Despite the continued danger for individuals here legally under TPS, the current administration has revoked TPS for 12 countries to date, and 6 more countries set to lose these protections throughout 2026. Many of these terminations made in 2025 are being challenged in court. Unfortunately, regardless of the final outcome of these challenges, the trauma to families in our community are already being inflicted. And as we can see from this current unconstitutional war going on, destabilizing efforts are the reasons we have TPS orders to begin with. It is the opportunity for folks to safely live their lives out. And so the idea that we would rip this away from folks arbitrarily, knowing that the circumstances are not any better in their home countries, does not make a lot of sense. Now, I know my colleagues all just received this letter when they came to the dais, so I do want to stop and see if there are any questions or comments related to what was drafted. Councilman?
Thank you, Councilmember. I just want to say thank you for taking the lead on this. I think that it's critically important. Temporary protected status is a protected status for individuals, and without giving them some sort of runway or notice, you can see the disruption that it causes, the fear that it causes in communities. And so while we do not have the power, we certainly do have a platform that we represent folks in our community that we can take it to members of Congress to say, can you please advocate for these things? And we have heard loud and clear from the Columbus community that this is something that they want, that they need, that they've been advocating for. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership on this. I think it's also important that folks note, while you said 20 or 12 were already provoked, that we have many more that are coming down the pike. And so it's important for us to act now. So I also urge residents for you to also contact our congressional folks, for you to also advocate. I always say this, but for the people, change happens. And so those letters and those calls are meaningful. So the more that we can elevate our voices collectively, then we can really urge our leaders to do the right thing and advocate for our friends and neighbors.
Thank you, Councilmember. Yeah, that is the thinking, and obviously we will share our letter, assuming this is passed, and hopefully encourage more folks to do the same thing. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Councilmember Green.
Just a quick question, because I know this is the first time we're looking at the letter, which, thank you, Councilmember, for being proactive about this. I certainly agree with everything that it said, but is the goal to send it to the Ohio congressional delegation, or have we, yes?
Yes, that
Okay.
is the goal.
Thank
Yes.
you.
All right. Seeing no other questions or comments, for these reasons, I motion to send this letter as a body and request a voice vote.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston? Yes. Barosa de Padilla?
Yes.
Day Akauer?
Yes.
Dorns? Yes. Green? Yes. Remy?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Weiss?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, we agreed to send the letter.
Thank you, Councilman. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your leadership. And lastly, the only announcement I have is that Council has its annual iftar dinner tomorrow night as we break fast with our brothers and sisters in the Muslim faith right here in Council chambers. It's starting at around 5:45 p.m. And as Councilmember Day said, we will have our Irish Proclamation Day on Friday at 10:45. So we call this the People's House. It definitely is the People's House this week, and it's perfectly made for this. So I'm really excited to celebrate with everyone. Are there any comments from our elected officials? Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or resolution from the consent action of the portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we now have a motion to waive the reading of titles of 30-day legislation? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, Day Akauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Ross, Weiss, President Harden.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance number of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Public Safety and Criminal Justice, we have ordinance 477-2026. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, we have ordinance 434-2026. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, we have ordinance 172, 278, 354, 391, 422, 429, 441, and 471-2026. Zonings, we have ordinance 537-2026. Variances, ordinance 538 and 562-2026.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have one speaker on the first reading portion of the agenda. Will that speaker come forward? Yeah. Welcome back to council.
My name is DJ Burns. I run a little operation called the Rooster. First of all, Doc Holliday. Before Doc Holliday, I'm a bit of a chemical sniffing hound myself, and I caught my interest today. Our friends at NBC4 had some hard-hitting journalism that showed that Easton has a bit of an Epstein problem. And that Epstein Island took inspiration from, I know, who could have bought it? Not me. That he actually drew inspiration from Easton. New Albany Company had architects down there. They visited him. And if you read the article, it basically all roads come back to a little company called the New Albany Company that Jeff Epstein ran. And he was the president until he wasn't. But then it turned out these guys were going down and they had business dealings with him all the way through 2017. And that continues today. When Intel was running the scam on the geniuses at Jobs Ohio, they wouldn't purchase land from the New Albany Company. The New Albany Company had to sell the land to a little entity called MCVGM. And then that was sold to Intel. And so I just want to put some names on notice in the coming weeks. We've got a gentleman.
DJ, is this germane to?
Yes, no, it's very germane. Doc Holliday, we're sniffing chemicals. Bill Ebbing, president of the New Albany Company. Alex Fisher, partner in the New Albany Company. Now, why doesn't Mayor Suburbs, Zach Klein, or Kevin Boyce want to get off Epstein Island? Why are they going down on the ship? It starts with the New Albany Company. These guys are on the list. Mayor of Suburbs, fundraisers. And I'll also draw you to another name. Bruce Soll, S-O-L-L, Chief of Staff of Wexner.
Sir, would you, again,
He referred, yeah,
make
it's
it
all
germane.
to the point. The point is this, that the problem isn't Wexner. The Wexner's the problem. He's never going to serve a day in jail. The problem is this company has its tentacles all over this city. All over this city. You say the Columbus Partnership, the New Albany Company, it's like I'm talking about the boogeyman. And these people have something to answer for, and everybody's off the island here, but some of our leaders aren't, and I would recommend they change their tune pretty quick, because this isn't going away. Thank you, and God bless.
The following orders appear on our agenda as consent action. Will the clerk now read those into the record?
Resolution of expression 50X-2026. In Finance and Governance Committee, we have ordinance 370, 438, and 499-2026. Economic Development and Small and Minority Business Committee, we have ordinance 209 and 301, 328, 405, and 462-2026. Public Service and Transportation Committee, we have ordinances 339, 432, and 486-2026. Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks Committee, we have ordinances 75, 76, 135, 392, and 397-2026. Workforce, Education, and Labor Committee, we have ordinance 513-2026. Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee, ordinance 398, 423, and 433-2026. Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, ordinances 383, 424, and 428-2026. Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee, we have ordinances 112, 207, 210, 246, 304, 309, 341, 385, 408, 456, and 470-2026. Under Rules and Policies, we have appointments 22, 23, and 24-2026.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have one speaker on the consent portion of the agenda. Kelly Arnold is here to speak on ordinance 0383. Welcome to council.
Good evening, Council President Hardin and members of council. My name is Kelly Arnold, and I currently serve as the zoning chair for the Far West Side Area Commission. Before you tonight is ordinance 0383-2026, consent agenda item 22, for a vote on the acceptance of the annexation request of 150 acres in Norwich Township known as Anderson Farms. I am here to reiterate the Far West Side Area Commission's request for council to reject this annexation petition. In our previous communication to this body, we have noted our significant concerns with the city's continued sprawl. As a result of a history of growth patterns without sufficient planning, our area does not have adequate fire service coverage and is over-reliant on mutual aid to provide fire and emergency medical services. The current budget proposals are lacking the means to address this growing problem, yet here we are about to add even more land that cannot be properly serviced. Additionally, there are logistical complexities, creating longer response times and insufficient police resources to respond to the community needs as well. This does not equal an appropriate level of safety-related services to the proposed annexation area as stipulated in the legislation. Further, our suburban area of Columbus is deficient in its planning for transportation and traffic, as evidenced by longstanding issues along Roberts Road, the site of 3 fatalities in recent months. This annexation will only further exacerbate those traffic issues along that corridor, while residents' pleas for communication and conversation regarding the problems have gone unanswered. Our area is also lacking in access to social services, community spaces, parklands, and our Columbus resident students are denied the Columbus Promise. So we need to ask, why does the city continue to spread itself thin and add additional land that does not truly have the capacity to serve? This is not NIMBYism. Our commission has a history of working with developers to create housing and commercial projects in the area. As the local residents, we know our area and its challenges and concerns. We are advising you to step back and take a harder look at the direction our city is heading with respect to growth patterns, especially in this environmentally sensitive area in the Big Darby watershed. Columbus is obligated to live up to its promises to residents to care for them once it incorporates them within its boundaries, not pass that obligation to others, and it has failed to do so. For these reasons, we respectfully ask once again for council to take these considerations into account and to reject this petition for annexation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner, and we appreciate you being here. We also appreciate the Area Commission and the work that you do every day to help us build housing in the Far West. I think it was Councilmember and I who did a bus tour with members of the Area Commission, and we talked about these things. As we grow, we have to think about all types of infrastructure when we grow. I'm going to ask Director Messer to speak to this. Is that okay, Director? Prosser, I apologize, wrong director, to speak to this annexation piece of legislation about why we're doing this and what we're thinking as we move this forward.
Yes, Council President, thank you. This particular annexation is not related to an exact development proposal. Those two processes are completely bifurcated, so the annexation is coming in. The outcome will simply be the redrawing of the city boundaries to include this land. It will come in as a rural zoned parcel, so anything that would be proposed that would exceed that rural zoning would need to go through the standard rezoning process, which would include the Neighborhood Commission review process, as well as through the City Council. All of those things through that development review process would also be looked at and considered as those types of impacts to the area would be part of that process. The annexation simply expands the city's boundaries. It's not related to a specific development and doesn't specify what that development is.
Thank you. So in short, we will have more conversations about this as if one were to move forward with anything, and we would be in close collaboration and contact with the Area Commission. So
Again, thank you for your time.
yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for being here. Are there any other questions or comments on the consent portion of the agenda? If so, is there a motion for passage? Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Bangston? Yes. Barosa de Padilla? Yes. Dayakauer? Yes. Dorans? Yes. Green? Yes. Remy?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Weiss?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, with the exception of 0328-2026, in which I am abstaining. The consent agenda passes. We will now proceed with the second reading of 30-day postponed emergency legislation. However, we will go out of order and start with ordinance 0649-2026 in Rules and Policy. I chair that committee, and I am really excited to bring this legislation forward today. We're going to, as I said at our press conference just about an hour ago, public safety has never been static. It has always evolved with every generation to meet the realities of the times in which we live. Before modern policing, cities had night watches and constables. Before professional fire departments, we had citizen volunteers and bucket brigades. Public safety is always changing to meet the needs of the community. In fact, 50 years ago, if you had a heart attack or an injury, you would have to rely on a police car or a taxi or a hearse to get to the hospital. So cities created the modern EMS system where trained paramedics could stabilize you. The basic idea was that a medical emergency is not a law enforcement problem, it's a healthcare problem. And now this idea is mainstream. And no one argues that police alone should respond to cardiac arrest or traumatic injuries. But today we continue to ask police to be on the front lines of all of our societal problems, from mental illnesses to substance abuse and more. You dial 911 and no matter what your issue is, you will get a cruiser with flashing lights. So as we continue to confront rising mental health issues, homelessness, and substance abuse crises, we take another step forward in our evolving understanding of public safety. This charter amendment is the latest chapter in that long arc that bends towards justice and progress. I appreciate the advocacy and leadership of the Columbus Safety Collective, which has been working to bring this vision to reality for years and years. For the last year, City Council members and my team have been working with the Columbus Safety Collective to see if we could collaborate and unite around a charter amendment to ask voters to take this step with us. Our commitment to that doubled after we got our results from the external consultant Mission Critical Partners that we commissioned to review our own internal programs. That review found that the city could be diverting 5 to 10 times more calls to our mobile crisis response unit if they were scaled up. It also found that up to a third of all incoming 911 calls could be answered by another kind of non-uniform specialized response. It found that we could free up our police to do what their 1,000 hours in Police Academy uniquely equips them to do: get guns off the streets and go after violent crimes. And our commitment doubled again when the collective turned in more than 30,000 signatures of citizens in support of this idea. We know this is what the people want. So tonight, City Council has 2 votes ahead of us. First, we will vote to advance the collective's original proposal, which we are legally obligated to do. Second, we will vote to advance the collaborative proposal we worked on with the Safety Collective. This proposal achieves the goals of the original, but it also has a proposal that gives the city more flexibility in funding and program. And as a show of good faith, this ordinance will also commit to the city to early implementation deadlines than their original charter contemplated. For these teams to be fully operational in 2028 and available as needed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week by 2030. Should we pass both, the collective plans then to withdraw their original proposal and to campaign for this one together. Again, an hour ago we had members from organized labor, from the FOP to the fire department to our folks in health, to all the city council members standing with the collective who did amazing work. And Channa, would you come forward as I continue speaking, just speaking with and advocating for this charter amendment. Channa is literally, I would see her out at every community event, and what I said earlier is what I'll say today. Thank you for turning your pain into purpose. You worked extremely hard to get us here, and we are so excited to be able to join you, to now join your growing group and momentum to codify that this is how we serve our residents best when in their time of need. I'm gonna turn the floor over to Channa Wiley.
Thank you, President Harden, and thank you to all of council. I'm Channa Wiley, and the co-chair of Columbus Safety Campaign, and I am so thrilled to be here today. The campaign is very personal to me. I started this work because of the loss of my brother, Jerron Thomas, experiencing a mental health crisis and calling for help, called 911, and officers were dispatched. Excessive force was used, and my brother lost his life. And Jerron was an incredibly intelligent young man, smartest of all of my brothers, and also smarter than me. He had a full ride to Ohio State University in the 6th grade on the Young Scholars Program, and he was just a joy to have in our family. He was our youngest brother, and my love for him turned into a commitment to make sure that what happened to him does not happen to another family. So in 2020, Columbus Safety Collective was formed by residents across Columbus who believed that public safety had to look a little bit different. We came together to reimagine how city responds when someone is in a mental health or behavioral health crisis. We held town halls and listened to residents, and we heard over and over again that message was clear that people in Columbus wanted to have an alternative crisis response system and wanted that for quite some time. The Columbus Safety Collective campaign is for the people and by the people, and this campaign's field program was ran by volunteer canvassers and community members who showed up, knocked doors, and collected nearly 30,000 signatures because they believe our city can do better. And this is what residents are asking for. We're so grateful for the support of our mayor, Andrew Ginther, and our city council president, Shannon Hardin. We know that collectively we can come to that. We have came to a compromise ballot language, and that is moving forward this evening. Today, we're here because City Council has that opportunity to move the issue forward and place it on the May 2026 primary ballot, and so the people of Columbus can decide. We're looking forward to a hearing, and we're grateful to Columbus City Council President, the mayor, for listening to the voices of the community. Thanks for being here, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Shauna. You and everyone else who did this work for a long time should be so proud. And like I said, we're excited to join the coalition. I'm going to open it up for my colleagues. If anybody have any remarks or questions. Anybody?
I feel like everyone's looking at me to give remarks. And I'll just repeat what I said in the press conference. And really that is, true public safety means that when anyone calls for help, that they are responded to with competence. And I think that what we have learned over time is that the way that we respond to crises, to nonviolent crises, has no foundation in competence. And we need to be empowering the people who do the work every day, mental health professionals who do the work every day, to be on the front end of responding to what they are most competent to respond to. I think that is not only going to be of economic benefit to our community, but it is really going to provide the foundation for true safety in our community. And so I am super proud of the work that you have done. I was with you a ton of days and hours and nights where we were the last people at a voting poll location, and you were continuing to collect signatures for what you knew was something that the community had been asking for and truly is in need of. So I commend all of you for all of the hard work that you have done, and I am super excited to join in partnership with you as we build a truly sustainable and integrated non-police response to nonviolent mental health crises in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember.
I just wanted to also echo my congratulations and just say, this is like a relay race, right? And we are getting to one hurdle, and then the next hurdle is talking to folks about what this is. And you and I were talking about this before. I think we evolve as people, right? We change, and the needs of our community and the needs of who we are as people changes. And so I think, for a long time, people have been advocating for us to do something different. And I think you said it best and most simply when you said we can do better. And this is us doing better, and this is us showing up better, and this is us giving people the things that they need, right? I think one of the things I first learned when I started working as a community organizer was for me not to question what people wanted, but to actually ask the people what they needed, right? And so I think that's what this work is really about. And so I think that the fact that we have all of the members of council, that we also had labor, that we had folks showing up and understanding that the community wants better, they want us to be better, and that it is our responsibility to show up different for people to ensure that they're getting the things that they want and the things that they need is just imperative. So I'm excited about the next leg of this relay race, and excited to go out and have these conversations with folks, because I think for people who might not be most proximate to the problem, they might ask why, right? And so I think bringing stories to folks and bringing them more proximate and having them understand, then it's a no-brainer. So thank you for leading this. I want to acknowledge all the other folks who are out here who have been part of this work, who have been part of making today happen. I think you always see the leaders, but behind every good leader, there's a ton more folks who get us to this place. So congratulations to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All I can think about is that Dr. King quote, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And I think because of the work of the Safety Collective, it is bending tonight. I also want to just shout out Stephen David. He was one of the people that first brought this idea to me several years ago, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Thank you, brother. It's good to see you. And then I want to shout out actually my chief of staff, John Tanous, who spent hours and hours and hours on the phone and in meetings with the collective and our organized labor to make this deal happen. Thank you. Okay. So first in Rules and Policy Committee, and it's going to be technical. Like I said, we're going to pass both tonight, and then we will and send both to the Board of Elections, and then the collective will work with the board to pull one of them back. So first in Rules and Policy Committee is 0649-2026. It's to submit to the electors of the City of Columbus at a special election to be held concurrently with the regularly primary election on May 5th, 2026. The question of amending the charter of the City of Columbus, such question to be known as Proposed Charter Amendment Number 1, Community Crisis Response. Do I have a second? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Ross, Weiss, President Harden.
Next in my committee is 0657-2026 to submit to the electors of the City of Columbus a special election to be held concurrently with the regular primary election on May 5th, 2026. The question of amending the charter of the City of Columbus, such question to be known as Proposed Charter Amendment Number 2, Community Crisis Response Service. Do I have a second? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Ross, Weiss, President Harden.
Now it's in the people's hands. Thank you so much. The next committee to come before council is the Finance and Government. Nick, they're clapping for you because we're passing a budget tonight. I'll turn the floor over to Chair Nick Bangston.
Thank you, Council President, and I didn't give remarks why the folks were up here, but I just wanted to echo thanks to you and your team. And I think that what we saw on display here today is this is when we work with City Hall, how we can all work together. I've said many times before, the best ideas don't come from this place alone. It comes from our residents and their shared and lived experiences. And so working together with community, I think that this is a true example of that. So again, just want to echo my thanks to you and your team for getting us to this point, and for the coalition for all the work that they've done. Next, I'm proud to present our budget for this evening. And it's been a long time to get us to this point, but really excited to move for passage of the 2026 operating budget. So first, in the Finance and Governance Committee, for second read, we have Ordinance 2938-2025. That's to make appropriations for the 12 months ending December 31, 2026 for each of the several object classes for which the City of Columbus has to provide from the monies known to be in the treasury of said City of Columbus in the fund known as the General Fund during the said 12 months from the collection of all taxes and from other sources of revenue, the amount of $1,256,877,066, and to declare an emergency. We have it on there twice, I'm sorry. I'll read it again because I think that there's a discrepancy here. So the amount of $1,256,877.66, $1,258,877.66. This ordinance establishes general fund budget appropriations for departments, commissions, and offices of the City of Columbus for fiscal year 2026. To say that this year's budget process was difficult is an understatement. At a time when our city is being asked to do more than we ever have, inflation, reckless cuts from the state and federal government, and the general increase in the cost of operations has placed us in an uncomfortable budgetary position. Though I do not have answers for all of the challenges on the horizon, I am thankful that we have the capacity to address some of our most immediate needs. As mentioned at last week's hearing, tonight I will move to amend this ordinance to include the following changes: $7.2 million in addition for the Community Shelter Board, $3 million to be set aside for the city's 27th-day pay period, $1 million added back to the budget to restore the city's Elevate Grant Program, $1.8 million for our federally health care, FQHCs, $1.2 million restoration to the Municipal Court of Clerk's budget, $700,000 restoration to the Municipal Court Judges budget, a reappropriating of $850,000 to support the city's summer camps, and $5.4 million in additional ongoing joint council and administration programming in the areas such as workforce development, public safety, housing, and other essential needs. I would like to thank Council President Harden, as well as our Chief of Staff, John Tannous, all of my council colleagues and their teams for leaning in during this process, as well as Director Matt Erickson and his team in the Legislative Research Office. I do also want to thank our Mayor Ginther, and his Chief of Staff, Elon Sims, our Finance and Management Director, Chris Long, Auditor Kilgore, and the other department directors and their staffs for working collaboratively with my office to get to this point. Before I continue with my remarks, Council President, and move for passage, we do have a couple speakers that I want to bring up at this point on this ordinance. First, we have Mr. Nathaniel Wilkins. Mr. Wilkins, welcome back to council. You have 3 minutes.
1612 Arlington Avenue, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins, a resident of the North Linden area. I'm in favor of all this, and I would say, is this for a one-year term? I would like to know where's this money being broken down to. I know some very important key answers to this is the shelter board and other entities of this, and more housing and more other things. So again, I do thank you for your time. Again, I'm all in favor of this. But again, we're still leaving out the vulnerable people and the young youth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins, for your continued advocacy. We'll make sure that we get you the appropriate links where you can find the final budget document. Next, I want to bring up Shannon Isom, our President and CEO of the Community Shelter Board.
Good afternoon, or good evening. I'm not sure which one. To President Harden, to Councilwoman and Chair of our Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee, Ross, to Councilman and Finance, Governance Committee, Finance Chair Bankston, and Councilwoman and Chair of Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, Green. And to all the other members of this august city council, I thank you for having me. I am Shannon Isom, President and CEO of the Community Shelter Board. So I thank you for this opportunity to address you tonight regarding the city's 2026 budget and the critical investments in homelessness services on behalf of the Community Shelter Board. And the 16 contract partners are 5 contracted warming center partners and the innumerable non-contracted partners that ensure an everyday, dependable shelter and housing safety net. We thank you for your bold leadership and your continued commitment in addressing homelessness in Columbus. I also, along with the council, want to express much appreciation to Mayor Ginther and the city administration for the ongoing commitment to housing stability, for thinking and introducing resources, new resources for focusing on housing answers, while also holding that we must maintain shelter readiness. You are chartering, this council, this city is chartering a course through a historic moment. It's already been noted here, but I would not fail to note that despite these very tight budgets, these rising costs that the city of Columbus, this council has chosen to protect and even expand the investment of homelessness services. This comes at a time when the city faces structural budget pressures, shifting federal funding, and rising personnel and material costs. So it is not lost on any of us that this decision that you have made today will not only determine the immediate shelter capacity, but also the long-term health, safety, and stability of our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness. There are just 5 reasons that before I take any questions that I would like to address that this unprecedented investment matters. And with Mr. Wilkins, I hope that this community as well as this council and this city holds us accountable, that this investment sustains life-saving shelter and services for those who need them the most, that this additional funding recognizes that safe, that stable shelter is not a luxury, but it is a basic necessity that is part of our community that protects lives, it stops the cycle of homelessness, and provides a platform for individuals to access housing, to access health care, and case management. Your increased support to this network will maintain, but in many cases, expand it. It will expand it to the access to immediate beds, warm meals, hygiene, safety for people who would otherwise be outdoors. And we know this because we have had successful housing through this warming center. Over 50 people have moved outside into housing. These increased investment will ensure that. Number 2, it strengthens pathways out of homelessness through coordinated care. We know that homelessness is not about a shelter bed, but it is complex, it is multifaceted. And you've allowed us to ask for those dimensionalities of things to support a coordinated system that links the shelter to healthcare, that links our shelter to behavioral health and to housing programs. So this specific funding will scale our interventions that is based on evidence-based. It will connect people to permanent solutions faster, reduce costly emergency responses by addressing root causes both in mental health, substance abuse, and chronic medical needs. And we're hoping that we do this before the acute phase of crisis rises. Number 3, it promotes city-wide health and public safety outcomes. When people lack shelter, the burden falls on the emergency rooms, the hospitals, police, other public systems. I know you've heard from them. Investing in stable housing and supportive services lowers avoidable hospitalizations. It reduces the demand on law enforcement and court resources by mitigating homelessness-related crises. In short, even a modest investment in prevention yields broad savings across the entire healthcare and public health system. Number 4, it supports a fair, a human-centered, and economically smart approach. I have promised you about 3 years ago when I came that I will always uphold
that this dollar that we're investing will give us output. And so as you're facing tight budgets, this council's decision to preserve and expand homelessness funding reflects that strategic prioritization of human dignity and social resilience. It aligns to our values and with best practices shows that stable housing is and will continue to be the most effective long-term strategy for improving outcomes for people experiencing homelessness. And finally, it preserves and enhances a crucial community asset, the trust, the stability, that when families and individuals know that we have built and we will contain a reliable safety net, they then can focus on the recovery. They can focus on job training. They can focus on their kids. They can focus on education. So this investment in people stabilizes our neighborhoods. It stabilizes our partners. It stabilizes our community. I don't want to leave here overstating what this investment will do, but I caution myself not to understate it either. This has been a system that has been built on, for this year, an unprecedented fusion of funds for homelessness services. And I know that you've done this amid a tightening fiscal environment. I want to thank you for your leadership and for recognizing that when we invest in people, when we invest in our partners, when we invest in safer, healthier, more prosperous community, it benefits us all. Thank you, and I'll certainly would take any questions.
Thank you, Madam President. Any questions or comments for President Isom? Again, I want to thank you for your continued work and advocacy. And you talked about the safety net, and the work that you do is catching, that is the very bottom of the net.
Yes.
And so we have to continue to invest in that. And I hope that folks see that even in austere times, we are still making it a historic investment
Yes.
in our shelter system, in our homelessness system. We can do both, and we'll get through this together because there are still tough times ahead, given the climate that we have coming out, again, Washington and the State House. But we have to make sure that we shore up the least of these in our community. And so I just want to thank you for your continued work in that. And I know you say hold us accountable, but you always here to report back. And so we look forward to the report back on the impact that this historic investment will make. So again, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Council President, I'll move for passage here shortly, but I just want to, in addition to what I just said, I just want to reiterate that tonight's vote is not an end to the budget conversation, I think, as you pointed out in our hearing, but it represents the start of the next phase in our oversight responsibilities. Over the next few weeks, I will continue conversations and planning in partnership with the administration to create a fiscal sustainability task force that will look at opportunities for cost savings, modernization, and efficiencies. And I want to underscore this, and I said it at the hearing. Again, this is not an indictment on the administration. It is not unique to Columbus. Cities all across this country, all across this state, find themselves in these same predicaments. I think that we are at a place that we have the ability to meet this moment. We don't have to do some of the drastic measures that some other cities have done, like lay off folks or tap into our rainy day fund, but these are tight times. And so I think that it calls for a conversation, it calls for collaboration, closer than it's ever been before. And so I look forward to working with my partners in good on the administration to think about how we reimagine city government, because the expenses only continue to grow, and our revenue is not keeping pace with those expenses. So at any time like that, we have to look at belt tightening and take a look inside and see how can we meet this moment, but also prepare ourselves for the future. So again, I look forward to that work in partnership with the administration. Difficult times call for more conversation, more collaboration, and leaning in, and that is our overall goal. With that, Are there any
Fair.
questions or comments from my colleagues before we
Yes,
pass?
I just wanted to make
Yes.
sure, I wasn't sure if you were going to give us opportunity. I just wanted to say before you move for passage that I would be remiss if I did not also thank you for, show my gratitude, certainly as a council member. I see other council members shaking their heads. This is not easy. This is a constant negotiation. And there are things that, and this also is not an indictment. We are sometimes going to prioritize different things, right? And I think it is our duty, it is our job to be the voice of the people. And when the people are coming to us and telling us that they need and want certain things, for us to continue to push forward for those needs, for those wants, for the things that we also believe in, that is challenging. And so over the past several months, this is something that you have been working on very diligently, being creative, thinking about the different ways that we could get to a place where we are continuing to serve our community, that we are not, we are continuing to live our values, we are continuing to take care of people, and we're continuing to make sure that Columbus is a place that can grow and grow responsibly. So I just also want to thank you for all the work that you have done to get us to this place. And we wouldn't be here without your leadership and without your vision. So I just also wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions?
I too want to echo that appreciation. Chair Bankston, I am very grateful for you and the work that you did. Used to crack me up over the last 8 weeks. I would be leaving the building at Friday at 5 o'clock, and Councilmember Bankston would be coming in for his finance negotiations. And I was like, y'all picked a hell of a time to negotiate the budget every week. But I appreciate you. As you said, so I've worked in this building since 2010, and this is the tightest budget that I have seen in over a decade and a half. And the issue with that, though, is it's the tightest budget when we also had over 6% growth. So we received a budget that did not fully fund shelter, that did not keep our promise to young people in education, that did not fulfill the safety needs of the courthouse and the clerk's office. And because of your leadership in this council, we were able to restore a lot of those resources. But we also have to be honest that we worked really hard to support a human service sector that is on a lifeline right now, that is just barely hanging on. But we still fell short of keeping them whole in a time where folks need it. And so as we continue these conversations, that's why I'm so grateful that you took up the mantle to pull together this fiscal sustainability task force, because we can't be in this same situation next year. We cannot be in this same situation next year where if we see the kind of growth that God blessed us with this year and are still scraping by, and we still have to pray that there are not huge, big surprises that come about throughout this year, because the budget is that tight, that we're not back here. And so that's why I think that sustainability commission, our committee and task force, is so important. I really do appreciate your leadership. Councilman's right, we would not be here without you. And we also, I was telling Director along this as well, we appreciated your partnership, even though these were tough conversations, I mean, really tough. We never doubted that you were speaking in good faith and working with us in good faith. And for that, I am very, very grateful. And to the public and to the community, I say this all the time, just because we say that this is the tight budget and we are working with less resources than ever, that doesn't mean that you don't still bring us your issues. It is our responsibility to figure out how we still meet our city's needs, even when the budget is this tight. You saw that in action in these council amendments. The council members went to the match for you to make sure that we could squeeze out every little bit that we could to make you whole. And like I said, we didn't get there all the way, and we won't be there all the way, but that's the imperfection of governing, and it's the imperfection of negotiations. But I am grateful. This is now a better budget, and I'm looking forward to voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Chair. I also, again, I want to make very clear, I'm so deeply grateful for your leadership on helping us get to a much better place. I also want to be honest, I'm likewise deeply troubled that we're at a point where we're having to restore the things that we are restoring here tonight. I think that investments in access to critical life-saving healthcare services, access to dignified housing for people that are living with housing stability, those things are our responsibilities to ensure are available to people. The funding that we contribute to them are not discretionary, they're not optional. I look around the room, I'm concerned right now at the questions that I still have. From our first budget hearing, we have contract, discretionary contract requirements to cut across the board by 15% everywhere. I've asked at every hearing for a list of what's going to be cut so that I can understand what I'm going to be voting on. And to date, I haven't received that. When we talk about workforce issues right now. Commissioner Clark, I see our partners in AFSCME sitting in the back here, and I know that we received a $1.7 million cut to our CPH's program that funds positions that serve 50% of Ohio's HIV-positive population. To date, I haven't been told what the solution is going to be to protect those workers, and certainly if we end up having to reduce our workforce, it cannot be those workers that do such critical life-saving work. So what does that mean about looking around the city to ensure that that we are providing the quality and quantity of services to our most vulnerable residents? I guess since we don't have solutions yet on all of the contracts that could be up for consideration as we're looking at reducing some of that external spending, I just want to make it pretty clear I'm going to be reviewing those contracts closely because when you look at the pattern of what has been eliminated out of this budget, you see funding for federally qualified healthcare centers, you see funding for emergency shelter, you see funding for all of these critical services. And it just, obviously gives me a hesitation. But the work of the city must move on. And again, I'm grateful. I know that it was not easy to arrive here. But I'm looking forward to working collaboratively to ensure that we remain on budget across all of our departments this year, and that we're also looking at how we're planning for next year. When you think about the alternate crisis work that we just passed, that work costs money. That's additional staff, that's additional dollars, that's additional administrators, that's additional vehicles, that's additional technology. And so we got to be thinking about how we're gonna keep the promises we've made and be good stewards of these public dollars. And so I look forward to partnering with all of you in the administration and with all of my colleagues to be able to make sure that we do that.
Thank you, Councilmember Green, and I look forward to folks coming with solutions. It is going to be definitely difficult times, and it calls for solution-driven leadership. And so thank you for all of your advocacy during this process. Before I move for passage, Council President, I do want to make sure I make clear the amount. I did butcher that a little bit. I know the clerk was going to probably get on me. Clerk, do you need me to read the whole thing again or just the amount? Just the amount? Okay. And that amount is $1,258,877,066 for ordinance 2938, for which now I first move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Ross, Weiss, President Harden.
Amended.
And now I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorns, Green, Remy, Ross, Weiss, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 0313-2026 to authorize the Director of Department of Technology to enter in contract with Vertiv Corporation for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning and uninterrupted power supply maintenance and repair services with the option to renew for 4 additional one-year terms or portions thereof, to authorize the waiver of the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City codes, and to authorize the expenditure of $298,442.33. This ordinance enters into a contract with Vertiv Corporation for HVAC and uninterrupted power supply maintenance and repair services. Vertiv has been the only factory authorized service provider to provide maintenance for the city's uninterrupted power supply system. Since maintenance of both the city's uninterrupted power supply system and data center HVAC are rolled into one contract, a waiver of competitive bidding is requested. The term of this contract will be for 1 year, beginning on April 19, 2026, and ending on April 18, 2027, with the option to renew it for 4 additional one-year terms. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Next, we have ordinance 0368-2026 to authorize the Department of Technology to renew a contract with Accela Inc. from a State of Ohio Master Cloud Service Agreement for software licensing, maintenance, support, and professional services, with the option to renew for 3 additional one-year terms, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of Chapter 329 of the Columbus City Codes, to extend an existing purchase order issued for the Accela migration project, and to authorize an expenditure from the Department of Technology Information Services Operating Fund. This ordinance authorizes year 2 of a 5-year agreement with Accela Inc. for software licensing, maintenance, support, and professional services. Accela is currently used by the Department of Building and Zoning Services, Development, Public Utilities, Public Service, Recreation and Parks, and Public Health. Services provided through this contract include technical assistance, support, upgrades, and telephone support services for the Accela automation system application used to issue building permits, track code enforcement activities, monitor the performance of the one-stop shop, and support the environmental health unit. This contract renewal includes $30,000 in contingency funds for use when unforeseen services are required. Due to the receipt of only one quote from the only vendor on the State of Ohio Master Cloud Service contract, a waiver of competitive bidding is requested. Seeing no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Harden.
Pass.
Next, we have ordinance 0505-2026 to authorize the city treasurer to modify its contract for banking services with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank to add additional funding to authorize the expenditure of $6,797,500 from various funds within the city and to declare an emergency. This contract modification pays for the increased volume of fees associated with increased citizen usage of credit cards to pay their bills in lieu of checks or cash payments. These fee increases represent the success of our banking modernization effort led by our city treasurer and will become routine in the short term as we continue to modernize the city services. Really, I mean, I know this is an insider and wonky one, but we are modernizing the city's banking efforts. And this really shows that a lot of our agencies are now coming to centrally utilize one credit card platform. So that is what you see with these fees. So I hate to be talking about expenditures and fees, but this is showing that our modernization efforts are working. So again, I want to thank our city treasurer for her efforts in getting us to this point. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Green, Remy Ross, Vice President Pro Tem Dorance.
Ordinance passed.
Thank you. President Pro Tem, may I move to the Economic Development and Small and Minority Business Committee?
You may.
Thank you. Tonight in the Economic Development and Small Minority Business Committee, we have Ordinance 0363-2026 to authorize the the Director of Department of Development to establish contracts with various contractors for the maintenance of properties maintained by the Division of Real Estate and Land Redevelopment, to waive competitive bid requirements of Columbus City Code, to allow expenditures prior to the establishment of the purchase order, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,475,000 from the Land Management Fund, and to declare an emergency. As stated in the title, this ordinance establishes contracts for property maintenance and lawn mowing services for the properties held by the Division of Real Estate and Land Redevelopment. Services in these contracts include trash and debris removal from structures, cleaning and abatement of vacant lots, lawn mowing, tree services, brush clearing, trash pickup, and similar work. 10 contractors were selected out of a group of 25 RFQ respondents, and current property maintenance contracts expire at the end of February, so an emergency designation is requested. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Green, Remy Ross, White, President Pro Tem Dorans.
Ordinance passed.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. That's all I have in my committees this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next committee to come before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilmember Barosa de Padilla. Floor is yours.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. I have two items today on second reading in Public Service and Transportation, and the first one is a special one. I'm excited about it. It's 0292-2026 to rename the roadway currently known as Washington Boulevard, close to where COSI is, to Granville T. Woods Boulevard. Granville T. Woods was born in Columbus, Ohio on April 23, 1856, and became one of the most groundbreaking inventors of the 19th and 20th centuries, with nearly 60 patents for his inventions. He was also an electrical engineer and significantly impacted urban and rural transportation. Last week, as we closed out Black History Month, and just like Black History, it's an everyday proposition, my friends. We are keeping the celebration and acknowledgement of the many contributions of Black leaders, activists, inventors, and more. So we do have three speakers, so I would invite them to come down to the podium. This request was made by the Ohio Black Expo. The Ohio Black Expo is a statewide nonprofit organization committed to enhancing the lives, success, and well-being of communities in Ohio. Their signature event, the Ohio Black Expo Riverfront Culture Fest, takes place every Memorial Day weekend to empower and unite Ohio's 1.7 million Black residents and those beyond. This annual gathering celebrates thousands of guests from across the state, the nation, and the globe to engage in solution-focused workshops, build connections and networking events, and celebrate the richness of Black culture. With amazing food, the arts, and an unforgettable atmosphere, there's no other place to be during Memorial Day weekend. So I would like to invite our speakers from the Black Expo, Butch and Sherry Hamilton, and Simeon, did I get it right? Thank you, Frazier, to the podium. Welcome to council.
Greetings to all council members and everyone present. My name is Butch Hamilton, resident of Columbus and COO of the Ohio Black Expo. While some people believe Black History Month has ended, we continue to celebrate Black history 365 days a year. And in that ongoing celebration, we gather tonight to lift up a person who deserves recognition and honor, Granville T. Woods. Granville T. Woods was born right here in Columbus, Ohio. Renaming a street in his honor is not symbolic, it's a permanent declaration. It etches his name into the daily life of our city, and it ensures that children and future generations will know that a self-taught Black genius from Ohio became one of the greatest inventors of our time. We hope to reverse the fact that many people in Columbus are not familiar with the story of Granville T. Woods. And as a scientist and an engineer, his work in the field of transportation revolutionized the industry. His innovations are still felt today and used throughout the world. Granville T. Woods held close to 60 patents, and it's documented that Thomas Edison attempted to claim some of his inventions. But Edison fought back in court and won not once, but twice. Despite extreme racism and discrimination, Granville T. Woods persevered. Personally, as an educator of nearly 30 years, I understand the power of knowing history. The principle of Sankofa teaches us to look back into the past in order to move forward. When children see someone from their city who looks like them, who achieved greatness, possibility becomes more real, more attainable. Growing up in Piqua, Ohio, my father instilled in me the importance of ownership identity. I watched him advocate for public spaces to be named after local African-American legends like Goodrich Giles, the Mills Brothers, and the Randolph Freed people, also known as the Unbreakable 400. Names matter, Memory matters. Public recognition matters. Granville T. Woods matters. And with that, I yield to my queen, the CEO and president of the Ohio Black Expo, Ms. Sherry Hamilton.
Let it be stated on the record that I'm a queen. Thank you again for your time tonight. We appreciate it. And here in Columbus, we have the opportunity, and I would even argue the responsibility, to honor one of our greatest sons. I also want to acknowledge those who have tirelessly uplifted his legacy. Mama Carol Rivers, who ran the Granville T. Woods Choulet, and my mother was actually a music teacher there. Also Mike Aaron of the Rickenbacker Woods Foundation, and the esteemed historian David L. Head, who has traveled this country preserving and sharing his story. We actually had David Head at the expo a couple of years ago doing a reenactment, and he'll be back this year. They have kept the flame alive, and tonight you have the power to make that flame permanent. Renaming a street after Granville T. Woods is more than signage. It is a statement of values. It tells our children that Columbus recognizes genius, that we honor perseverance, that we celebrate excellence, even when history tried to overlook it. This initiative will empower our youth to dream bigger and reach higher. Council members, this is an opportunity to do something that will outlive all of us. Long after we are gone, children will walk that street, they will read that name, and they will know that greatness was born here. So we thank you in advance for this opportunity to recognize Granville T. Woods, a man truly worthy of honor, remembrance, and permanent recognition in the city he called home. And again, thank you, council members, for helping us to push this initiative forward. Thank you for your continued support of our work. And we want to thank our founder, Rhonda D. Robinson, for her leadership and sacrifice to build what is now the Ohio Black Expo. And so, Executive Board Member Simeon Frazier.
Apparently the titles stop at Queen. but I can rock with that. Interestingly, March 2nd, it holds a particular significance for me for a number of reasons. 11 years ago on this day in 2015, the Lord called home one of my beloved mentees in the personality of Ms. Jasmine Cosby. She was an absolute angel. Additionally, at 9:07 p.m. this evening, it'll mark the 30th anniversary of my initiation into the absolute best fraternity seen by human eyes on God's green earth in Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, 9:07 p.m. again. And then lastly, today I get the privilege of seeing the city of Columbus putting the right steps in motion to do the right thing. An unnamed Jesuit priest, once coined a phrase, which ironically has since been attributed to President Truman, where it said, "It's amazing how much you can get done if you're not worried about who gets the credit." That said, I'm certainly proud to be on this side of history, and with us all on the same side of the table. It's certainly always a good time to do the right thing, and honoring one of Columbus's native sons is certainly the right thing. I'm proud of the continued sponsorship and the support of efforts, including from the Department of Public Works, along with Madam and Sir of the Columbus City Council over the last 5 years. And I'm thrilled with this initial step in substantive growth and happily yield the balance, both seconds of our time.
For my colleagues, if there's any comments, questions, Councilmember.
No, I just wanted to say thank you and commend you all. I know that we've had conversations that, I served on the board of the Rickenbacker Woods Foundation, and Mike Aaron, the work he's doing. Also, wonderful park that we have invested in back there as well. And so, ongoing campaign that they're doing. And also, I just wanted to lift up the documentary that is being filmed or in talks of being filmed about all of the work that Granville T. Woods has done. And so this street being a marquee for our city and you all taking the effort to rename it is very thoughtful. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership and all that you've done to get us to this point.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So I just want to say, I said this at the beginning, this is very special for me because, you know, I'm a certified youth worker, and we always say our kids need to see us to be us, right? And one of the coolest things about a street name is that, you know, I remember my girls were learning to read, and they would read and ask, why is the street named this, right? It's that wonder and that curiosity. I have a program called 614 Beautiful for this reason, because I believe in giving people the power back to express and create beautiful places in their neighborhoods. And we did a really amazing mural on the east side. Some would say it's the south side. There's still an argument about that. But of some amazing leaders. It was right by one of our schools, because every time those kids go to that school, they walk by and they can see the leaders who literally built their community. You know, people who were Tuskegee Airmen and other people who changed the course of history. And at a time where it feels like people want to erase our history, it is more important for us to double down on what we know to be true. And so as chair of this committee, I got the honor of presenting this today, but I just want to thank you for your advocacy, because I think it is a good model for us to look at. How do we change? I mean, people come to us all the time about why a street was named something, or can we change it to something? So we can do it something good, right? To your point, to be better, and to also be, for this to be right next to our science center, where kids from all over, all backgrounds come and they can learn about the contributions. They can see themselves and say, I can do that too, is super special. So I just want to thank you for all the work that you do in our community. I want to thank you for how you elevate Black culture and Black history and invite people in so that they can partake in it and they also can celebrate along with you. And as you said, it is a 365 proposition. Some of us are lucky enough, Happy Women's History Month, you get 2 months to celebrate your identities. Some of us get 3. So I just want to say again, thank you. And with that, you get 12? I mean, correct, council member. With that, I move for passage.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross Weiss, President Harden.
Congratulations.
Happy anniversary, too.
Great. And I also want to thank our Public Service Department, because this would not have happened without them. So thank you. And lastly, in Public Service and Transportation, I have Ordinance 0382-2026 to amend the 2025 capital improvement budget to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into contract with BEC Enterprises LLC, utilizing the ODOT cooperative purchase contract to purchase equipment to clear and maintain city right-of-ways, to authorize the waiver of the competitive bidding provisions of Columbus City Code, to authorize the expenditure of up to $298,903 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, and to declare an emergency. So this essentially authorizes us to buy a boom mower. We should have a fun little quiz on the names of all of these equipment, which will be used to clear and maintain the city's right of way. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Bankston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross Weiss, President Harden.
Passed.
Perfect. And that is all for me this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Health and Human Service and Equity Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Green. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President. Tonight in our Health, Human Services, and Equity Committee, we have one ordinance on second reading. It's Ordinance 0347-2026 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to establish purchase orders with Sanofi Pasteur Inc., Pfizer Inc., and Moderna US Inc. for the purchase of vaccinations for the Board of Health, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, and to authorize an expenditure of $200,000 from the Health Special Revenue Fund. Each year, the immunization program at Columbus Public Health offers free flu shots, COVID-19 shots, and other back-to-school vaccinations to residents of Columbus and Franklin County. It is absolutely an incredible program and such a great public service that you provide to all of our young people to make sure that they are ready to go back to school and be healthy and safe as they are around all of their kiddos with lots of germs. We have learned throughout the years that it is important for us to pre-book pre-book through the manufacturers in order to have the most reliable access to receiving the inventory that we need to be able to do that. And so that is what this appropriation will fund today. And pre-booking also guarantees on-time delivery and heavily discounted 340B program pricing, another federal policy that everyone should be on the lookout for. By the way, that would, in this case, have a direct impact to our budget. So this ordinance authorizes the Director of Finance and Management to establish purchase orders with those companies so that they can ensure they have the vaccines that our residents need. And it is, I don't need to read that. Are there any other comments or questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross White, President Harden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee coming before council is the Housing, Homelessness, and Building Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Ross. Councilmember, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. We just have one ordinance on second read tonight. It is 0326-2026 to amend the 2025 capital improvement budget to authorize the city auditor to transfer funds within the Affordable Housing Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Healthy Linden Homes 7 LLC for development of a 23-unit affordable housing development in an amount up to $2.5 million with a total commitment to the project of $5 million, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $2.5 million from the Affordable Housing Fund. Healthy Linden Homes is an affordable housing initiative coordinated through Healthy Homes, a nonprofit housing organization in collaboration between Community Development for All People and Nationwide Children's. Healthy Homes is committed to preserving affordable housing through the provision of home ownership, rental, and home repair services in two Columbus communities, the South Side and Linden. The Healthy Neighborhoods, Healthy Families Initiative began in 2008 in Columbus's South Side neighborhood. In 2021, the efforts expanded on the bold vision of the One Linden Plan to the Linden community. Their work in these neighborhoods focus on reducing the social detriments of health, and since 2008, Healthy Homes has impacted nearly 1,000 homes through full gut renovation, new builds with energy efficient and green features, grants to current residents through the home repair program, and is certainly completing the critical work of housing preservation in our community. And so with that, if there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I will move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross White, President Harden.
Passed.
That is all from me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to push through and finish out the evening. The last committee to come before council is the Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Weiss. Councilmember, the floor is yours. You're welcome, Director.
Very shocked by that, but I'm excited for it. Thank you, Council President. I have 5 ordinances in Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee this evening. First, I have Ordinance 122-2026 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to enter into a contract modification with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated for the Construction Administration Construction Inspection Services 2023-2025 contract to appropriate funds within the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund and the Water Fresh Market Rate Fund to make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving both loans for this project, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,204,509.90 from the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund and the Water Fresh Market Rate Fund to pay for the project. This ordinance supports the Highland Harris Integrated Solutions and South Eureka Avenue Water Line Improvements Project in the Greater Hilltop neighborhood. This project will install various types of green infrastructure and replace water mains on 2 streets, effectively reducing stormwater overflows in basements and waterways. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, I have Ordinance 160-2026 to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate current and pending universal term contract purchase agreements for the purchase of distribution switchgear, reclosers, and transformers for the Department of Public Utilities, and to authorize an expenditure of $7 million from the Electricity Operating Fund. The purchase of this equipment will enable the Division of Power to replenish stock for the maintenance of existing infrastructure and continue to serve both current and future customers. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross White, President Harden.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 247-2026 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Utilities to modify and increase the contract with Ascension Construction Solutions LLC for the wastewater treatment facilities professional construction management services project. To make this ordinance contingent upon Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for this project, to appropriate funds within the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, and to authorize expenditure of up to $1,429,878.03 from the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund to pay for the project. These services will provide quality control for the project and help reduce the number of construction claims, therefore ensuring that the projects run smoothly and with this and the city can continue to provide efficient and cost-effective wastewater treatment services. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, White, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next, I have ordinance 293-2026 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to renew the contract with New River Electrical Corporation for emergency and non-emergency services for electric transmission, distribution, and street lighting systems, and to authorize an expenditure of $2,100,000 from the Electricity Operating Fund. The work to be completed under this contract includes the installation and maintenance of electric and street lighting systems, as well as an emergency services during power outages, pull downs, and extreme weather events. This work will ensure the Division of Power is able to provide 24/7 service 365 days a year. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And finally, I have ordinance 300-2026 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Claypool Electric Incorporated for the Southerly Wastewater Treatment Plant Power Systems Upgrades and Safety Improvements Project. To make this ordinance contingent upon the Ohio Water Development Authority approving a loan for this project, to amend the 2025 capital improvement budget, to appropriate funds within the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund, to transfer cash and appropriation between projects within the Sanitary Bond Fund, and to authorize expenditure of up to $16,420,654 from the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund and the Sanitary Bond Fund to pay for the project. This ordinance supports the improvement of electrical equipment as well as the replacement of critical aging gear at the Southerly Wastewater Treatment Plant. This work will enhance the overall efficiency and reliability of treatment process, increasing the level of service provided by the Southerly Wastewater Treatment Plant. Let me stop there, see if any questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That is all I have for my committee this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. See no further business come for the council. Is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, White, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene for zoning in 5 minutes. Number 10 will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, White, President Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorance Green, Remy Ross, White, President Harden.
Are there any additions or corrections to the journal? Hearing none, the journal is approved. We'll now go to the zoning committee. Councilmember Dorance chairs that committee. All members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. As always, before we begin tonight's zoning agenda, I'll explain our rules pertaining to speaking for council on rezonings and variances. We will only hear a staff presentation for ordinance that have a disapproval from recommending body, or if we have a public speaker assigned to speak against an ordinance. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents, 3 opponents. We ask that those speakers limit their remarks to 3 minutes per the standing rules of the City Council. All speakers on a council variance, including city staff, area commissioners, applicants, and members of the public will be sworn in before they give testimony. A representative of the area commission are always able to speak on an ordinance. You do not need to fill out a speaker slip, but we do ask you alert city staff of your intention to speak at this committee hearing. This evening, we do have 1 public speaker signed up to speak against an ordinance on our agenda. On the advice of the State Attorney's Office, we'll now swear in city staff. Please stand, raise your right hand, be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, nothing but the truth, that you shall answer under pain of penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do. I do. Thank you. Please let the record reflect that Joseph Rose from the Department of Building and Zoning Services, Christopher Lohr from the Division of Planning, Dan Bleshman from the Division of Traffic Management in the Department of Public Service, and Deputy Director for Housing Strategies, Aaron Prosser from the Department of Development has been sworn in. First, we have ordinance number 0485-2026 to rezone 2219 Holt Road, being 20.02 plus acres located in the west side of Holt Road at the terminus of Knoll Crest Drive from R Rural District to LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District. Site consists of 4 parcels, each developed with a single unit dwelling, and requested rezoning will allow a 312-unit apartment complex at this location. Proposal is approved from city staff and the Development Commission, but a disapproval from the Westland Area Commission. I do want to note that the Development Commission originally recommended disapproval in September of 2025, but after the applicant made changes to the proposal, the Development Commission reversed their original decision, and now it recommends approval. However, due to the disapproval from the Area Commission, we will now hear a staff report from city staff, starting with Mr. Joseph Rose from BZS. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chair Dorance, President Harden, members of council. As stated, the 20.02 acre site consists of 4 parcels, each developed with a single unit dwelling and zoned in the R Rural District. The applicant is requesting the LAR1 Limited Apartment Residential District to allow a 312 unit apartment complex. The limitation text includes a maximum of 312 dwelling units and includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan and building elevations. North of the site are single-unit dwellings in the R Rural District. South of the site are single-unit dwellings in the R Rural and LR2 Limited Residential Districts. To the west are single-unit dwellings in the R Rural District and undeveloped land in the M Manufacturing District. East of the site are single-unit dwellings in the LR2 Limited Residential District and the PUD6 Planned Unit Development District. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Westland Plan, which recommends 3 to 5 units per acre at this location, and is also subject to the early adoption of Columbus citywide planning policies and design guidelines. As stated, the previous proposal at Development Commission had a proposed 384 dwelling units, which did not get a recommendation of approval. The developer then revised the site plan to drop down to a density of 312 units, which then received a recommendation of approval, as well as implementing a central open active area for open space. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Any questions, my colleagues? Seeing none, we will move on to Mr. Christopher Lohr from the Division of Planning.
Thank you, Chair Dorance, President Harden, members of council. Planning is in full support of the proposal. Although the request is at a higher density than the Westland Plan from 1994, recommendation of 3 to 5 units per acre, C2P2 and its successor, the Columbus Growth Strategy, note that projects that are proposed at a density higher than the recommended land use may be supported if they include a high level of site and architectural design. Staff note that the current site plan includes revisions from what was originally submitted that reduced the overall density, fronted the building on Holt Road, reducing the visual impact of parking, and provided for activation and expansion of the central open space. The site plan also includes evergreen screening along the southern property line and the preservation of existing trees along the western property line. Staff also reviewed proposed elevations, which were found to be consistent with adopted design guidelines. As such, staff is in full support of the request, and I'm available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Just to clarify, I just want to make sure my colleagues heard that right. So the land use recommendation of this area, the plan is from 1994, correct?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. Any questions, my colleagues? Councilmember Green.
So I want to be a good advocate here for this area and the area commission. You know, I think that there are some real concerns, and this has come up again and again with applications here in this side of town. There are some real concerns with them not having the tools that they need to be able to effectively feel like that they can evaluate applications based on planning's sort of proposal for development in this area. As you mentioned, the area plan is from 1994. It is almost as old as I am. And, you know, I think that this is an area commission of folks who have been there, you know, stable. You know, Mike McKay, the zoning chair, has been zoning chair since I found a zoning application from 1999 with his sign off on it. So there's been consistent leadership, you know, consistent partnership from the community. And a lot of, I mean, you listed off the projects in the very close surrounding proximity where they have approved and been partners to the work that we're trying to do. And, you know, I don't know what opportunity exists to provide them. And, you know, I've had this conversation before here and, you know, elsewhere. You know, what opportunity there exists to just give them the base level information that they need, you know, not an entirely updated area plan, but, you know, a congruent sort of look at their community so that they can have access to the tools that they need to be able to evaluate these applications and be able to confidently move forward with them, knowing that there is a contiguous plan for growth and development that's going to include addressing the infrastructure needs that exist. You know, I'll pose a question later about you know, this is on the path to a school and young kids there's no sidewalk that provides connectivity to the school campus, and kids are walking quite a long ways in the gutter of this, you know, on the side of this relatively busy street. And that's not a problem of the developer. You know, I don't think that's a problem of this project. I think it is an area where I wonder if there's opportunity for us to be good partners with them and providing them an updated map, providing them an updated plan for infrastructure investments like that sidewalk in this area, so they know that when they're taking a vote, that they have their region and our city's interests in mind. And is that possible?
Yeah, in terms of land use, I think you're spot on. These older plans are part of the reason why we needed to have a citywide approach. And so the Columbus Growth Strategy is that pathway. When we start looking at phase 3 for zone in, that's when we will be looking at the rest of the city and starting to work with the communities, including this community, to determine what is appropriate for these sites like this, right?
Other questions from council members? Councilor.
So, Councilmember Green, one thing I want to address, and, you know, Mr. Blushman, you can jump in here. I think part of this is an infrastructure issue, particularly around, I think, roadway safety, right? So both from a mobility standpoint of like what does the road itself look like, and then also how do people move safely around it? I think the question you ask is a good one. I think I've said this before, and I don't think that the department would disagree with me. I think that our infrastructure improvements have not matched our growth for a number of reasons, right? And I don't think that's a Columbus problem. That's a like universal American problem. I mean, it's the way that we fund our roadways. I mean, comes from the federal government that then goes to ODOT, that then comes to us, and they're incredibly time-intensive projects and really expensive projects. I'm not saying any of this is excusable. I'm just giving facts here, right? And so we have seen roadway projects that we will plan today and will not be done for 5 to 8 years. And so when you are looking at a housing crisis, for example, and trying to build housing, you can see where now we are mismatched. You can see where now we have conflict because how are we meeting the infrastructure with this crisis that we have? We don't have 8 years to wait to house people, right? And so one of the things that we've worked with the department on is how do we backfill and how do we start to address some of those issues. So for example, the developer, especially with this particular project, is investing, I think it's around $600,000 for roadway improvements that will include turn lanes, that will include other infrastructure improvements for the now to allow for that density that is coming. For sidewalks, that's another conversation that we can continue to have. But part of our, and this is again, I think also for the general public, is that we ask developers to build sidewalks now, right, as part of their development, because we know more sidewalks will come, but it is a strategy. We also have other strategies that we can pull from to ensure that we safe walks to school. We have Celebrate One. We have all of these other things that we can kind of pull from. So I think I would be very interested in having the conversation with the commission. What's challenging is that as we look at priorities on the west side, we're also working on priorities on the south side. We're working for, and part of the expense of those sidewalks, and particularly in roadways like this, and we had this challenge on Bixby, is that it is an outdated infrastructure issue. So the roadways or the sidewalks do cost us more because we have utilities and other things underneath. Sometimes it's part of people's properties that then we have to obtain. So again, it is a completely dissatisfactory answer to the question you have. I just wanted to give that context because I think some of that is coming with some of the developments that we're seeing. But I just wanted to add that context to address some of the concerns that you're expressing on behalf of the commission.
Well, no, and I'm so glad that you did, because I think that hits the issue that they're really trying to drive home, is that these issues are complex, and it doesn't seem like there's, even to your point about sidewalks and the complexities of adding them, given the landscape and given the utilities and all of those things, it just doesn't seem like there's, what they're telling me is it doesn't seem like there has been the thought put into it for us to be able to safely evaluate applications like this, to know if we are being good stewards on behalf of their community. And so, I think it warrants a longer conversation outside of the context of this meeting. I really want to have the conversation in a meaningful way and see, because, I don't know that they would have voted no on a project like this had it been that they felt like they had the tools at their disposal to be able to make a thoughtful decision. I don't think it is a situation where, similar to Commissioner Arnold's testimony today, I don't believe the issue here is like a NIMBY issue where, they've approved many, many projects around the area. I think it's just a concern of, wanting to be thoughtful to a partner who has always been thoughtful towards us in their deliberations, to try to fill in the blanks as much as we can for them, while we're also recognizing we're at a point of transition with the zone in initiative and things of that nature. So I'll stop talking. I'm so sorry, Chair.
Other additional questions for planning at this point? Seeing none, I'd like to hear from Mr. Dan Bleschmidt from the Division of Traffic Management.
Thank you, Chair Dorans, President Harden, members of council. With regards to our review of this application, please be advised that this site was required to complete a traffic impact study that was reviewed and approved by the Department of Public Service. The results of this traffic impact study have indicated that this site is required to construct a northbound left turn lane and a southbound right turn lane at both proposed site access points to Holt Road. Additionally, the traffic impact study indicated that the site is responsible for its off-site traffic impacts at the intersection of Alkire Road and Holt Road. In accordance with the provisions of the Traffic Standards Code, an appropriate proportional contribution is the responsibility of the developer that will be utilized by the City of Columbus for future roadway improvements at the intersection of Alkire Road and Holt Road. Commitments for the necessary turn lane improvements at the Holt Road access points and for the contribution toward future roadway improvements at the intersection of Alkire Road and Holt Road are included within the text of the proposed ordinance. Additionally, this site will be required to construct a shared use path along the Holt Road frontage of this site. With these comments noted,
the Department of Public Service has no further concerns regarding this application. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bleshman. So just as we like to do with these, we have two different levels of analysis when we talk about traffic studies as it applies to development. We have a traffic access study and a traffic impact study. A traffic access study is required for projects that are much smaller than this. So this is actually the highest level of review. So can you talk about, and you mentioned both the improvements that are required, both from the turn lane perspective, but beyond just that, because this is sort of a higher level of this. So you just talk a little bit about sort of what goes into that much higher level in which we're zooming out from just the individual property and saying, what's the impact of traffic going to be, not just getting in and out of the property, but the increased volume of traffic that may or may not come to fruition, beyond just directly on that site.
Sure. So the traffic access study, or at least that part of the analysis, is looking at the driveways, and that analysis has shown that there's roadway widening that will need to be completed by the developer. There will need to be work done to widen Holt Road to provide those turn lanes in conjunction with the development. So that will need to be implemented with the development, with construction of the site. So the impact analysis is looking further afield. It's looking at other intersections. In this case, it was looking at Alkire Road and Holt Road, and looking at this development coupled with other sites. There's a site to the north that was added to that volumes, and other sites added to those volumes to look at what, as you step a little bit further out, what's the impact of this site in consideration of other growth and other background traffic. So looking at that, there's likely that there would need to be a larger improvement that the developer is responsible for a portion, but not, per the traffic standard code, we can't make them 100% responsible for something they aren't 100% responsible for. So they are responsible for a contribution that's identified in the text that will help to fund likely future design efforts, hopefully to get a project moving, as Councilmember Burrows de Padilla was indicating, that that will help it along the steps as hopefully additional funding sources are found for ththose improvements.
Thank you. So again, we're talking about, in this instance, the other developments that are happening within that area, and this is both to Councilmember Green's point and Burrows de Padilla's point, those other developments, when they are taken into account when we're thinking about what additional improvements might be required. And again, in this instance, when we think about improvements from an infrastructure standpoint, you got to start somewhere. So when we talk about the impact of this project and the other ones that are happening in close proximity, those are the ones actually helping to fund getting basically the design efforts underway for additional improvements beyond just what's literally at that individual site. Is that sort of a fair assessment?
Right, and I guess this is one of at least 3 sites we know of recently that are either have made a contribution or are committed to make a contribution toward future roadway improvements in this area. So that is helping to kind of add some funds in the bank to help the city along to make some things happen, to make a project happen that can help to answer some of these infrastructure questions.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Councilmember Green.
I'm so sorry, Chair, and partners. Yes, so is there a timeline by which that project would be completed or started? Or, does that money that comes from these 3 projects in this area go into a pot for this area? Or is it just, go into a road improvement? Again, not to keep hitting home. I mean, I share this concern, I guess, where, if there's a timeline by which that larger infrastructure project, like even that information would be incredibly helpful.
So
and again, I don't want to put Mr. Brown on the spot, but I think that this is, this is not a, developer problem. It's a kind of an us issue, an us question, I guess.
So at this time, there is not a specific time frame when that future project would occur. However, the funds, as stipulated in at least the 3 ordinances that were referenced, they're not intended to go toward the general fund of roadway improvements. They would be directed toward specific improvements, specifically in this case at a future improvement at this intersection of Alkire Road and Holt Road.
Any other questions for Mr. Bleshman from council members? Seeing none, I'd like to invite Deputy Director Prosser for a presentation.
Chair Dorans, President Harden, members of council. The proposed rezoning of 2219 Holt Road in the Westland neighborhood supports the Columbus housing strategy by expanding the housing options in a high-demand area where the current housing infrastructure is not meeting the high demand, which is increasing housing costs and risk for instability for existing families in the area. The new units will relieve the pressure on the overall market and allow for more options for residents in the area, slowing the growth in rents and home prices. The zip code has seen only modest population growth since 2020, increasing only 1.5%, while compared to the city at 5%. Rents have increased 25% and home prices more than 55%, indicating an area in high demand where there is not sufficient housing being built to meet the increasing needs and stabilize the existing households. The homeownership rate in the tract increased by 26.3%, indicating a shift in the neighborhood's socioeconomic, demographic, and housing landscape. As an indication of that shift, the percentage of households earning more than $75,000 a year rose 42.8% since 2020. Only 5.8% of the housing units in the zip code are located within buildings that are 10 or more apartments, compared with 45% to the city as a whole, indicating a lack of rental options in the area. Preservation is not simply about physical neighborhood conditions, but also about stabilizing families in the community. 57% of renters in this census tract pay more than 30% of their income on their housing, up from just 32% in 2020, indicating an increasing housing cost burden and therefore increasing housing instability, specifically among rental households in the area. Not building housing in areas like this with access to jobs and opportunity will mean that workers will need to find housing located farther and farther from their employment. This spatial mismatch between jobs and housing will add to the economic, environmental, and health costs to the community, not to mention adding significant vehicle travel miles on the existing transportation network, resulting in an increase in traffic congestion, longer commutes for families. Adding housing near job opportunities is critical to managing the transportation system so that roadways are safe and functional. While housing scarcity will drive up housing prices throughout the region, in these locations with high demand and insufficient new housing to accommodate that demand, we expect to see accelerated housing pressure as the market responds. Therefore, it is not only critical to add the housing, but also increase the options available in these areas to slow the rise in housing prices and stabilize families. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Any questions, my colleagues? Appreciate you all being here tonight. Do at this point want to invite the applicant's representative, Mr. Jeff Brown, for a presentation.
Good evening, President Harden, Chair Dorans, members of council. Jeffrey L. Brown on behalf of the applicant. This is another affordable housing project that the city needs, and we're happy to supply it. If you look at our site plan, if you could, Joe. The interesting thing about this site plan is you see a rather large green area in the center of the site. Prior to our revisions, those were buildings. And the comment from the Development Commission was that we had too many buildings and not enough green space. So what you're seeing here is a revised site plan that drops 72 units, nearly 20% of our overall density with this revision. And what you get is a large green space. At one end, it has all our amenity packages, our clubhouse, our pool. All the little white lines that you see there are our internal sidewalks. They connect through the internal part, all our buildings, and also go out to Holt Road. And as you heard from Dan Pletschmidt, there will be a shared use path that we'll have to put in along Holt Road. In terms of the road contributions, the turn lanes will go in as part of this development. And in terms of the $611,000 check for the regional improvement at the intersection, we will have to pay, well, my client will have to pay that when he applies for his building permits. So with this development, you'll get the turn lanes as part of the construction of the project. You will also get additional funding for that project that the city can then use to do engineering or something to move that along. If you look at our site plan at the north and south end of the property, we are bordered by flag lots. That's a long driveway, 60-foot wide strip that comes from Holt all the way to the northeast corner of our site and the southwest corner of our site. So those are our neighbors, two driveways. And as you look at what we've done on the north side, we've got one-story garages, ends of our units. On the south side, we have that additional landscaping end of our unit. So we think we've tried to lay this out as best we can. And as often happens in the zoning process, what we present to council is much better than what we started with. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions of my colleagues for the applicant's representative? Okay. Thank you. I'm not sure if we have anyone from the Area Commission here this evening, but I did want to pause and see if there were any area commissioners that wanted to speak on this application. Great. Seeing none, as I mentioned, we did have one public speaker signed to speak against an ordinance, Ms. Beth Brooks. Ms. Brooks, welcome to council. Thank you for being here this evening. And right up there, and the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Beth Brooks, and I live at Knollcrest Drive. I have been a Columbus native for 25 years, and I've seen a lot of changes with Holt Road. I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about my neighborhood. It doesn't quite have a name. We have Holt Road that goes down one side, and Holt Road is a single-lane road. The pictures that they showed made it seem like you could go outside and pet a cow. We're not. There are a lot of people, a lot of houses in the area. So I do want to let you know that it is a pretty populated area. So it's a single lane, and it goes down to 5 schools, with Central Crossing and I forget the other ones, but the Central Crossing is the big school. And then you turn, you got Big Run South, and then Demarest, and then Alkire. So we kind of make a rectangle. So within that rectangle, I did a little bit of counting. So I got up to about 623 houses that are kind of in the middle of the rectangle. I got a little tired, but there's about that many. But the thing is with apartments, in our little 1.5 miles, so I can run 1.5 miles, not well, but I could do it. It's not very far, very short, small time. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are, with these ones that, because you've heard Holt Road many times because there are so many apartments that are coming on. So there's potential for 2,047 units just in 1.5 miles with all our houses, with our schools. So I'm all about, I think we do need to build more things for, but how about maybe houses instead of apartments? Just something just so that this little tiny area of land isn't just going to be flooded with traffic, with people, because I see kids walking down the street of Holt Road, and I've been living there 20-something years. Maybe the sidewalks will come, but it's been a while. I do see them walking. I've seen fender benders because the roads are so backed up. So the times to do the traffic study, if you do the traffic study at 8 in the morning, between 8 and 10, and if you did it between 3 and 5, it's completely different because all the schools are letting out. So you have all these kids. I've seen fender benders. I've seen people yelling out of their windows because they're angry with the traffic. It does take, I think I timed it once to go 0.4 miles. It took me 10 minutes. I'd rather live farther and not have to just sit there. I am getting a lot of audiobooks done when I'm in traffic, so that's kind of good. But the one thing I just wanted to point out that I really want you guys to think about the impact of having so many units right by it, because this one that they're building is next door to another one at Clarkson, which is 360 units. So they're right next door to each other. It's a lot of houses, a lot of cars. We have kids going down that street for Holt Road. If there was an emergency, it would be hard for them to get because Holt Road is, like I said, is one lane. I think that I'm a big believer in balance, and I feel like my neighborhood, we've given a lot. We've really given a lot. There's all these apartments in one little area. And I feel like it's almost to the point where I feel like we're being taken advantage of. So we are just giving this area, and I just ask for you just to think about it. Just, you know, all about balance. So that's what I'm asking for, is just balance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Any questions from council members?
Not a question, it's just the comment. I really, taking that bus tour last year, really for the first time, you could see what you're talking about, how much development is happening there. And the thing that I struggle with, and I think Councilmember Green was talking about, is that's not a developer issue and that's not a community issue. It really is a city's issue of working with the community to talk about housing is just one type of infrastructure when you talk about growth.
Mm-hmm.
you have the physical infrastructure of roads and sidewalks. You have the safety infrastructure of, are there enough police and fire out here? You have the recreational infrastructure. Is there rec centers out here? And I didn't leave that bus tour saying, man, we can't build any more housing out here, because it's such an amazing part of our city.
It is.
Like, you have like 5 different types of community in like a very, it's really a neat part of our community. But we do need to have a more focused conversation around how do we then, if we're going to ask you to bring in a lot of new neighbors, then what do we owe to, when I say we, the city, and as we think about our growth strategy, what do we owe to this community as it grows? And that was, it was striking, and it was a fair. It didn't tell me don't build more housing. It was, we need to really have a comprehensive conversation out here. It is fair. And what they are saying, it was not a NIMBY conversation. It's fair. It is really, and I would encourage folks to,
Yeah, and if we can widen Holt Road, I think, that'd be great. I know there's a lot behind that. I think it's $5 million, if anyone has that.
But again, if we're going to put the housing out there, then those are the serious conversations that we have to have as a city to make sure that infrastructure really does keep up with.
And I feel like, because I went door to door and spoke to my neighbors, and that's the main thing is they were concerned about is just turning left to get out of our neighborhood, because you really do have to go like this just to turn left, because you can't see the cars coming because it's backed up. So I think that's, if we can make that the 2 lanes, I mean, that's a win-win for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, I did want to say, first of all, thank you for coming down to council. Also, thank you for bringing, these are your children?
Yes.
Thank you welcome to council.
Yeah.
You've got a very good teacher here. So when you see things in your community that you can come down and advocate, this is a place for you too, at any time, and you can come whenever you want. You should always be welcome here. The other thing I wanted to say something to what Council President said, because I think it's interesting. I think as the chair of Public Service and Transportation, I mean, this is something that we struggle with all the time, right? Because I think, like I said, there's an imbalance between how our infrastructure grows and where we make those investments and what triggers that investment, right? And it's challenging because one of the things we're talking about today is we are talking about adding turn lanes. We are talking about a shared use path, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a shared use path is, but it's essentially a wider path. So you can both walk and be on a bike or skates or a scooter or whatever. So it's not just like a sidewalk that's more narrow. But what's challenging is that part of what's bringing that is the development.
Right.
So
it's a mile and a half to get to the
it's like
schools.
backwards,
Yeah,
right?
so it'll be
It's
a while.
backwards in terms of how we do this. And I think it is a serious conversation that we need to have. And, one of the places that I struggle is, I live in a community that is very unique, where there's a ton of apartments, a ton of single-family homes. There's even streets where there are single-family homes and apartments on the single-family homes. I mean, literally Central Eastmore, there's $500,000 houses next to a 4-unit apartment. It's just what it signals to me is at some point we had another growth spurt as a city, and this is what happened, right? And you had this mixed use housing, and James Road was once a one-way either way, and then widened to 4 lanes now. So anyways, what I think to the point that everyone is making today, I think it warrants us to continue to have these conversations about how we build infrastructure and how do we keep up. And I will say it is a challenging one, because I've seen it as I've chaired this committee now for 4 years, and especially when you have these competing priorities. So I would just encourage you to continue to have these conversations. I mean, we've working with Vice Chair, having these conversations with communities about the things that they care about, and how do we start to have those conversations, and how do we start to figure those things out. I mean, this year alone, we're only in February, and I think we've put up 3 or 4 ordinances for more sidewalks. So those are coming, but it's not always coming at the pace in which all of us, me included, all of us would want. But I think we do need to continue to have the conversation, because it's going to continue to be a problem for us. Even as we push our density to certain corridors for Link Us, part of why we're in your community and you see the housing is because we don't have any more room anywhere else. And so I think that's linked to a conversation we had earlier about annexation and that sort of thing. So
I just worry about the kids walking down the street, because it's going to be years. I mean, before sidewalks are created, it's going to be years. And I just don't want to hear a story where somebody gets hurt with, just because high school kids are driving to school and some of them are a little impatient. So I've seen them, pass when, going, against traffic, and it just worries me as a parent.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did want to pause and see if council members had any other questions, either for the applicant's representative or anyone from the department. Jeff, did you have anything you want to add?
To the city's credit, they've changed their rules and requirement. Now, unfortunately, most of the development on the east side of Holt Road occurred before there were more stringent requirements. But nowadays, as you heard from Dan Pletchman, we had to do turn improvements in front of our property. We had to contribute to an off-site improvement. And as a matter of fact, when you start taking the turn lanes from the Metro Development Project and our turn lanes in the taper, you end up getting a 3-lane section. So there's a lot of good that's coming out of the new requirements. But I think the council members are correct. There's a period of catch-up that you're going to have to do. But at least in terms of when these projects come in, the traffic commitments are made. There are a professional study that's prepared and reviewed by the city staff. And park fees. We didn't used to have park fees. There's a park fee requirement. And we've got that shared use path out in front now. It takes care of our property, but that's better than not having that sidewalk there. Because sooner or later, as the planning people keep telling me, if you do it here and here, sooner or later, they'll all connect. So the city's getting better. They're requiring more, but there will be a time of catch-up. But in terms of this project, we've done what we should do to improve and provide more affordable housing.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions from my colleagues?
No, I just want to thank you, though. I know that you've made significant changes to the application in response to community feedback, and I do see a lot of value in the improvements that are going to be made. I just wish on our end it wasn't if you do it this place and this place, then eventually they'll connect. I wish on our end we were more intentional about saying, if you do it this place and this place, then we will connect it. And that's the difference, and that's the thing that, after this meeting, like, I'm going to be really like a dog on a bone and wanting to collaborate and figure out if there's a way, that we could put our heads together to figure this out. Because to Council President's point, when we went out there, I mean, the buildings are towering, and it's a very small area. I mean, it really has the potential to, have a real impact if we're not thoughtful about it. And I don't want to be overreactive here, but I just really do have concerns and want to make sure that as we're moving forward, we can maybe work better together.
Thank you. And again, I want to say thanks to Ms. Brooks for being down here tonight. I think we would not have had discussions like this in others within this area if it were not for folks within the area making sure they're advocating to this body that we can then take to the various departments that have responsibilities for planning, for traffic infrastructure improvements, all the things that we know are needed in order to make Columbus a more livable place as we continue to grow. One of the frustrations that I constantly have as the chair of this committee is that my colleagues may roll their eyes a little bit, but it's, oftentimes it's the question of like what is literally before us as compared to the broader picture. That does not mean that we ignore that broader picture by any means. And I think like these projects in particular, as Mr. Brown said, those changes that have happened about requiring more from applicants is because of conversations like this. Whereas maybe 5, 6, or 7 years ago, those things were not as thought through about what we should be expecting from folks that are building and bringing new residents to an area of the community. But again, what is before us here is a project that from start is now greatly reduced its density, that again is bringing those traffic infrastructure improvements to help mitigate the impact on that adjacent neighborhood. Again, with additional investments down the line from an infrastructure standpoint about future fixes, not just the ones directly proximate on that property, but also an area that we know has had growth and is going to continue to grow. And to Councilmember Barosi de Padilla's point, the growth is going in different places of where there is places to build. There are other areas of Columbus, literally, where there's no places to build at all, or it's financially not viable to build what is market affordable housing within that community. So, certainly understand the frustrations from folks within that area about sort of the old adage of the chicken and egg coming before here. But ultimately, when I analyze what's before us here and what's the possibility of this project, I think it's ready to move forward. And again, I think the area, as both Council President mentioned and my colleagues, an area that requires more attention from our folks as we move towards rezoning the whole city and having better planning policies in place that's more reflective of what we can expect in the future in Columbus. The idea that we're going to have a 1994 land use plan guide, a city of this size at this point is not reasonable. But that said, again, to Councilmember Green's point, if we don't provide additional guidance on that, it's hard to figure out where we're going to go, which then means that we're stuck in this place that is all applicant driven. And that is up to folks to try and bring something before us to see whether or not we can be supportive. So with all that said, I do think that this one in particular is ready to move forward. So therefore, I move for passage by voice.
Bangston. Yes. Barosa de Padilla. Yes. De Akauer. Yes. Dorans.
Yes.
Green. No. Remy. Yes. Ross. White. Yes. President Harden.
Yes, passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 0457-2026, regarding variance provisions of section 3349.03, permitted uses, and 3312.49C, require parking in the Columbus City Codes for property located at 100 Noel Bixby Road to allow a shared living facility, reduce parking in the I institutional district, and repeal ordinance number 1282-01, passed September 24, 2001. Site consists of one parcel developed with a shared living facility for the explicit use of management of Maryhaven, as approved by ordinance number 1281-01. A new council variance is required because the property will be changing ownership and no longer meet the conditions of the original ordinance from 2001. Property will remain a shared living facility, and no additional or exterior changes are proposed. The variance to reduce the required parking from 29 to 22 spaces is also included in this request. The proposal is approved from city staff and the Far East Area Commission. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy, Ross, White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. Next, move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy, Ross, White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. I finally move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy, Ross, White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And finally, we have ordinance 0482-2026 to grant a variance provisions of section 3332.02 R Rural District, 3332.06 R Rural Area District requirements, and 3332.28 obstructions in a required side yard of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 4901, 4925 Poswaith Road to allow a natural gas regulation station to reduce development standards in the R Rural District. Site consists of two parcels, each developed with a single unit dwelling. The site is a split by a third parcel developed with an existing natural gas regulation station located within Perry Township and is not subject to this request. A requested council variance will allow the expansion of a natural gas regulation station. A council variance is required because the current zoning district does not allow institutional uses such as this. Variances to lot area, side yard obstruction are also included in this request. Proposal approved from city staff and the Northwest Civic Association. I first move to accept the entire staff report into evidence as an exhibit.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy, Ross, White, President Harden.
Accept it.
Thank you. Next, move to adopt the findings of staff as the findings of council.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy, Ross, White, President Harden.
Adopt it.
Thank you. And finally, move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy, Ross, White, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. That's all we have in tonight's agenda.
Thank you, sir. There's no more to come before council. Is there a motion to adjourn? Clerk, please call the roll.
Bangston, Barosa de Padilla, de Akauer, Dorans, Green, Remy, Ross, White, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned.